Hello and welcome back to Scoop with Coop. I'm of course Coop, and in today's video, we are going to be reacting to the first game of each NBA team's playoff push. And when you're looking at the NBA, there's a large gap in talent because the first seed is more than likely going to absolutely annihilate the eighth seed. The second seed, more of the same. But that's when you start getting into the 3 seeds and the 4 seeds and the 5 seeds. That's where you get those interesting and those fun matchups. Now, I'm just going to go by the order in which the game started. And the first game that started was the Cleveland Cavaliers at home taking on the Toronto Raptors. And in this game, it went as expected. The Cavaliers, they took care of business. It was more of the same for playoff Donovan Mitchell because on the night he had 32 points, 4 assists and 3 rebounds. Consistently, he's going to get 30 in the playoffs. That isn't very surprising when you look at his track record of absolutely balling out in the playoffs. And I think that the only thing stopping this Cavaliers team is Evan Mobley, because that guy has earned a nickname for being AT&T, or 18 and 8. That's one of the nicknames that he has. But he had 17 and 7, and you really want to see him elevate more. Only took 9 shots, which good efficiency if you're shooting 6 for 9, but you want more of that volume from him as a focal point of the team. Like, I would rather he shoots the shots that Sam Merrill takes and that Naquan Tomlin take. Or Jalen Tyson. Like, I would prefer that he would take 5 more shots instead of those aforementioned players taking them. But Cleveland, they're probably going to win this game in about 5 or 6. I'm not at all concerned about this, but for the Raptors, I think now is when you really start you have to start wondering about, can you have Scotty Barnes as the focal point of a team? Because looking at this, he played the most out of any player, not named Brandon Ingram, but he had a negative 22 plus minus, and that was the worst on the team by far. And he just can't shoot. He is left open to shoot. And sure, he went 3 for 4 from 3. That's not going to happen again. Being this larger forward, okay, that's cool and all, but if you have 1 rebound and you have 5 turnovers with it, I don't think that works. Sure, you led the team in assists, but you also had a third of the team's turnovers. Just for context, he had half as many turnovers as the entire Cavaliers starting lineup. So I think that when you look at, can this player be the focal point of a team, I don't think that's the case, and this is when he needs to step up, and he just didn't. He played okay, but okay isn't enough. And I think that there are serious concerns about where do you go with him as your number 1 option, because if Jamal Shayad is someone who you need him to put up 17 points, and he has a negative 6 plus minus, when him and Jakob Poeltl are your 2 best starters based on plus minus, that is really problematic. Now, I do think that also is a testament to the Cavaliers not having a ton of bench depth, but I still don't think that that is at all acceptable for your star players to be doing that. And I think that this is going to be a gentleman's sweep, and I think that the Cavaliers are going to move on, and I don't think it's going to be very, very difficult for them. Now, this is one of those instances where you get the fun matchups, right? You get this mini little rivalry brewing, and not even mini anymore. The Minnesota Timberwolves traveling to Denver to take on the Nuggets. And well, we had another great game in store for us here as the Denver Nuggets, once again, had the number of the Timberwolves and came away with the win. And this game was probably the ultimate Jamal Murray experience, where you look, okay, 30 points on 22 shots, cool. Largest plus minus, cool. But then you look at the shooting efficiency. 7 for 22 and 0 of 8 from 3. But he did go 16 for 16 on free throws, and as a matter of fact, he had 3 less free throws than the entire Timberwolves team and had more made free throws than the entire Timberwolves team. So what you're going to see in this series is going to be Jamal Murray doing his little like breakdancing, where he's going to go look for a mismatch, he's going to try to drive, and he's going to try to do all of those fun, nifty little things. But you're going to see one man down low or up top at the top of the key doing DHOs, and that's going to be Nikola Jokic. 25 points, 13 rebounds, and 11 assists. That is the entire Nikola Jokic experience. Triple-double, controlling the pace, controlling the game, and keeping everything the way that he wants it to. The game bends to him, and he doesn't bend to the game. This Denver Nuggets team, whenever you have Aaron Gordon and Cam Johnson making their shots, not from 3, but if you get this team when they make their shots and when they follow through on defense, they are an absolute juggernaut, and they are going to be as close to impossible to beat as it can get. Because there is one team that is closer to impossible to beat, in my opinion, and we will see them later. But the only concern for the Nuggets here is you did shoot 28% from 3, which isn't fantastic, but if you're having Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, your 2 best shooters, going 2 for 15, I don't think that'll happen again. So I think that not only could you steal a game when you weren't shooting that well from 3, but you also see that you don't necessarily need to make threes to still be an efficient offense. You got 33 free throws. And if you're able to put your defenders in jail a ton, that works very well in the playoffs instead of doing the looking for contact. If you already have that contact drawn to you, that can slow the game down, and that can allow you to regroup and reassess how you want to approach the rest of the game. Now, moving over to the Timberwolves, I think that this was another case of only a couple guys stepping up and the rest just not doing enough. Because when you look at this game, you see Anthony Edwards leading the scoring, which isn't surprising. But you have Rudy Gobert up there. And first of all, Rudy, when did you have that in your arsenal, my guy? Like, you were doing some insane dribble packages. You were hitting some breakdowns. I mean, he was just fantastic. And I think he played very, very well for this Timberwolves team. And that's really all that you can ask for. Because you have Rudy Gobert balling out, and you have Anthony Edwards. While he didn't play his best game, he played good. But the rest of your guys didn't step up as much as you'd like him to. Ayo Dosunmu, the trade deadline pickup, he played well. He was good off the bench. 14 points, good shooting efficiency. That's all that you can really ask for. But if you have your main, like if your starters in Julius Randle and Jaden McDaniels, they are both putting up 13 for 30 on their shooting efficiency, and they're getting in foul trouble, what more can you do? I mean, Naz Reid, 2 for 6. I mean, he had one more point than he did fouls. I mean, they have some serious concerns that they need to address. And also, Julius Randle, he was finally getting over that playoff choking moniker, but I think that he's on suspect watch now, because you can't possibly keep getting bodied by Aaron Gordon. And I think that there is going to be change with this Timberwolves team, and I think that unfortunately Julius Randle is going to be the piece that is sent out. But I do think that if he can keep his form from the regular season and from last year's playoffs, Minnesota should be able to win this game, because they should be able to win this series, because Denver is so consistently inconsistent, and you're not going to give up 33 free throws again. Probably. But I think that Minnesota was very undisciplined, and they just did not play well enough to win. And I think that isn't very, very surprising, especially going up against this Denver team where they're just stacked. They are just very, very good. And I think that it's going to be a real test for Minnesota to see if they can bounce back and if they can catch fire from three and play agile and fast enough to beat this Nuggets team. The next game, that give any Knicks fans some flashbacks? Well, you shouldn't be nervous because the Knicks won 113 to 102 against the Atlanta Hawks in the Garden. And I know that this box score seems like, oh, it was a little bit close. It didn't really feel that close at all. It just seemed like New York always had the lead and they just never relinquished that. And just looking at how this Knicks team operates, Jalen Brunson, he started off the scoring, but he tapered down. He always does this little. He will go on like a 5-minute stretch where it looks like he is the best basketball player in the world. And then he's going to slow down, and that's whenever you're going to see other guys step up. Usually, that would be Karl-Anthony Towns. And he did end up playing well. Shot the ball efficiency. Played pretty good defense for him. 3 blocks and a steal. And I think that this Knicks team is just more talented than the Hawks, and I think that they are a little bit better coached. And I also think that this is the worst matchup for the Hawks possible, because when you look at the Hawks' best player, Jalen Johnson, okay, you're able to switch once in a while onto Josh Hart. You know what? We're just going to make sure we're just going to avoid him at all. Mikal Bridges is waiting for him. Okay, you know what? What if those two are on the corner? Then you get OG Anunoby in front of you. I mean, this New York team has so many switchable wings and so many switchable defenders that it is such a tall order to ask any wing to be able to properly operate when those three are in the area. And Jalen Johnson, as much as he tried, he just didn't do enough with it. 8 for 19. He played well, but I mean, it's just didn't work out as well as you'd like. The only other thing is that the Knicks had more free throws and they made more of them. They made 13 more free throws, which that would have given the Hawks the win if they had made 13 more free throws than the Knicks. So I think that this Hawks team, they're young, they're inexperienced, and this is kind of a post-trade deadline. This is kind of a let's just see what happens period. And I don't think that this Hawks team is really going to be able to win this series. So I think the Knicks are probably going to win it in 5 or 6. I mean, I think that this Hawks team, give them credit, they battled well, but I just don't think they're talented enough. I don't think they have the right pieces to match up with New York, and I don't think that they are quite good enough. And speaking of teams that aren't quite good enough, we have the Houston Rockets, the team where in the offseason I thought if they could go get a spacer, they could be fantastic, and that's exactly what they did when they brought in Kevin Durant. And right before the game, Kevin Durant is listed as out, taking on the short-handed LA Lakers without Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves, but that wasn't a problem for 40-year-old LeBron James as he led the Cavaliers. I just had 2018 LeBron flashbacks. He led the Los Angeles Lakers to the win. But sticking with this 2018 LeBron feel, he had 8 assists in 7 minutes. He was just fantastic. Largest plus-minus on the team. Played 38 minutes, 19 points, 8 rebounds on 13 assists with 2 steals and a block. He played fantastic for this team. For the Lakers, this defensive masterclass, this offensive masterclass with what you have in terms of talent, they executed at the best level that they could. And they won. The only thing that I'm concerned with for this Lakers team is if it took Luke Kennard having the best game of his life and it took you having shot 53% from the field to do it, that's a little bit concerning. But on the other end, you did miss 9 free throws, so even if you make 6 of those 9 that you missed, you win this game even more comfortably. But I do think that this Lakers team, I would not have thought this going into the series. I think they might be more talented because they just play so well together. Rui Hachimura, Did that guy miss a mid-range shot? Because it really didn't feel like it. And on the defensive end, he was getting it done too. 3 steals and 2 blocks. This Lakers team played as a team. And I think that they were able to space the floor. LeBron able to take advantage of opportunities and play the most old man game I've seen, where you don't see him moving a ton, but you see him going and doing what works for him in the bump fadeaways, in the just driving down the lane. You also get the, if you're going to match up on a smaller guard, bump and go to the rack. You didn't get as much of the just, okay, I don't know what you do against that. But you got more of the slower paced and more technical LeBron. And this Rockets team didn't have an answer to that. And moving over to this Rockets team, I don't think I've seen a team play so bad in the half court of my entire life. They are so unbelievably terrible when it comes to just operating an offense that it should be a crime for people who paid to watch this. Because outside of truly one player, I don't think this team deserved to even be in it. And that player's Tari Eason. Eason, 16 points, shot 100% from the field, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, and 3 steals. He played as well as you could have possibly asked for, but the rest of his starters were so unbelievably bad that it really makes you wonder about the future of this team. Alperen Şengün, right? You're supposed to be the team leader and step up. You were getting scared of DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton. And you are supposed to be leading your team to a championship? Just disgusting. There are a couple times he was in the post, and then he left it and got a travel on it. I mean, it was just so unbelievably shocking how poorly this guy played. Then you look, the name above him on the stat sheet, Jabari Smith, 5 for 14. It felt worse than that. There was one sequence where he missed a 3 so badly off the front rim that it bounced right back to him. Then he hit the side of the backboard. Like, when the Kevin Durant files dropped, I didn't think he was as bad as Kevin Durant made him seem. Maybe Kevin Durant was right in how truly bad you are, not about the personal things, all of that stuff. But this team can't shoot. On most of the time, every single player is wide open, except for Reed Sheppard, and they're shooting 33% on wide open threes. Amen Thompson, the moment he steps outside of the paint, he turns into a pumpkin. He can't shoot. Josh Okogie, he played good defense and was efficient, but if you're asking for Josh Okogie to be the real difference maker, you are absolutely cooked. Reed Sheppard, I feel like you played an okay game at best, but you were taking a couple of shots that you really shouldn't have, but also at the end of the day, I can't blame him because no one else on his team can shoot. They weren't even looking at the basket a couple times. So, I mean, this Rockets team, for as much trash as Ime Udoka was talking about calling calling Bronny a derogatory term, calling all of the antics or the narratives around Bronny correct, and just being a top-tier hater, which I'll give him credit for, it was funny, but also, at the end of the day, when you have to back it up, you're doing nothing. JJ Redick is out coaching you at every level with a team that is just composed of role players and a 40-year-old guy. You're having someone who is, like, genuinely could be a grandfather. Gramps is cooking you. Rui is cooking you. Marcus Smart is cooking you. These are guys who are role players. These are players who don't play a ton in the playoffs, maybe 10 minutes at most, and they are getting 34, 38, 20, 20, and 13. Only one of those players is playing the right amount of minutes for their skill set, and they still beat you. So show some respect and approach this game how you should next time. Because you should win this, even without Kevin Durant. Because you have who should be the best player in the series, you have who should be the second best player in the series, and you have who should be close to the third best player in this series, but instead, they all played super duper poorly, and you made LeBron James, when he's supposed to be a role player at this stage of his career, you made a guy who is, again, over 41. You made him look fantastic. You made him break his own records. LeBron broke a record on you. And this isn't even a longevity or counting number. This is a during the course of a game stat. So be humble. And they seriously, the Rockets, you all need to figure out what you're going to do with Şengün. Because that man might be in Milwaukee by the end. Get him, he's a Turkish guy, get him on Turkish Airlines and send him to Milwaukee for Giannis. Because this was just a disgusting display. And I don't like being this hostile and this reactive to one game, but it was sickening watching this pathetic excuse of an offense. And I want my time back for watching that absolutely just disgusting display of hoops. Well, I think I got my angry rant out of the way. But there's another rant that could be had, although I'm not going to because this is a 2-7 matchup, so no point in really doing that. And that is the Boston Celtics at home at the Garden, taking on the 76ers and Jason Tatum. What a way to reacclimate yourself to playoff basketball. 25-11-7. I'm not going to talk too much about this because I don't think that there's much of a discussion here. This Sixers team just isn't very good without Joel Embiid, and shooting 17% from three is unacceptable. This Celtics team, they didn't even play the best version of themselves, and they won by 30. So, Jason Tatum, he's back. Jaylen Brown, he's back. Got to work on that left-hand dribble, though, because he dribbled off of his foot at one point in the game. But even looking at the bench, Peyton Pritchard, you didn't play that well, but you didn't really need to, as you had a plus 21 plus minus. This Celtics team, more talented, better coached. They are better on every single facet of the game. I would be flabbergasted if this isn't a sweep. And it's unfortunate for Philadelphia because Joel Embiid, their supposed to be best player, got diagnosed with appendicitis right before the series. But unfortunate. Oh well. Not really much to say there. Next game up, we have another one of these where it's just going to be an absolute decimation. Oklahoma City Thunder taking care of business against a truly terrible Phoenix Suns team in terms of playoff standards. And we'll look at the Thunder. SGA, he didn't play his best game. And the one thing I don't like is he did not help the free throw merchant label. Please, man. But this entire Thunder team is just better. I don't think that there's a single player on this Suns team who's better at their position than the Thunder. And I think that it's been a great story for Phoenix to get to the playoffs in the midst of all this chaos. But I don't think that Phoenix is good enough. Devin Booker, he didn't play that great. I know his numbers say an efficient 23, 6, and 2. That's pretty good. Negative 25 plus minus. Dylan Brooks, 6 for 22. That man put up a tour date. And then it just gets into the rest where it's just like, okay, cool, whatever. I don't care. This series, it's a wash. You could put an average player, you could put an average person on this Thunder team and they'd still win in 5. I don't think that this series is going to be close. And, the Thunder, they're the 1 seed and they take care of business. Unlike the Detroit Pistons at home, they lose to the Orlando Magic. And this was the ultimate Paolo Banchero experience, where for 3 quarters you see him absolutely ball out, and in the 4th quarter, 0 points. But looking at this Magic team, they go on the road. They play a scrappy Pistons team, which I'll explain why the air quotes later. But this Magic team, they didn't shoot that well from 3. They usually don't. But their field goal efficiency was fantastic. They shot 10% better than the Pistons. Paolo Banchero, he played well. And their best player on the night was probably Wendell Carter, who his best impact was on the defensive end, even though he had 2 steals and a block. But he was locking up an all-NBA player, which, again, we will get to that, as we're going to probably get another little angry rant about the Detroit Pistons. But the Magic, their three-pointers weren't falling, didn't matter. And I think that, quite frankly, this is like the image of like how middle school, like I'll put the meme up where it's like how high school teachers talk about college and how college actually is. Just those two dogs. That was kind of how this game went, where a team that actually is supposed to be tough just wasn't, and they got owned, for lack of a better term. Detroit, Cade can't do it by himself. Cade had one more minute than he did points. So Cade had roughly half the team, or just under half the team's points. But some of these numbers are ridiculous. Tobias Harris, 5 for 15. Dennis Jenkins, 1 for 7. Kevin Huerter now, 1 for 3. Isaiah Stewart, 0 for 2. Ausar, 3 for 7. Duncan, 3 for 8. I mean, it was just bad. They just didn't shoot. They had 13 less field goal attempts, more turnovers, and it just didn't capitalize. They didn't take care of business. They didn't play as well as they should have. And this is where we get into the angry rant here, where I already gave Cade his flowers. The second best player on this team is Jalen Duren, and Jalen Duren got locked up by Wendell Carter Jr. Like, I could understand if it's Shaq, if it's Dwight Howard. This is a player in Wendell Carter who his best season as a rim protector averaged 1.3 blocks per game, and that was 8 years ago. You are an all-NBA player, and you put up 4 shots. I mean, you were out there doing cardio then. Jalen Duren, you are a player who averages 19 and a half. If you round that, 20. 20 and 10. And you didn't even get as many points as you average rebounds. This just, you cannot play that way. You had more free throws and you still lost. You had 15 more made free throws and you still lost. You played so poorly, this entire Pistons team, outside of Cade Cunningham, because Cade Cunningham is the only reason that you didn't lose by 30. It's just disgraceful what we all saw, and I think that if we could see the Ausar versus Amen Thompson game, that would probably be the worst offensive game of all time, and it would revert the NBA back to like 1960. You know what? Not even Wilt would give these guys buckets. 1940s. I mean, I'm sure that like we're getting into territory where it's like it's just disgusting to watch this offense play. But this Pistons team, they didn't play well enough to win. They didn't deserve to win, and they didn't win. And then the final game of the day was the San Antonio Spurs at home in Victor Wembanyama and Stephon Tassel's playoff debut. They beat the Portland Trailblazers 111-98, and I know that sounds close. Really didn't ever seem to feel that way because this Spurs team was inspired, and I want to give all of the credit in the world to Victor Wembanyama. He had maybe one of the greatest plays that I have seen a player make. at his size, because I'm going to try to put it on screen now. But he hit a sham god on someone at 7'4", 7'5", 35 points, 5 rebounds, an assist, and 2 blocks. And that 2 blocks doesn't even take into account the amount of people and plays that he just got out of the paint. This Spurs team made the Trailblazers settle for threes as they shot 38 threes and they only made 10, shooting 26% from the field or from the 3-point line. But these centers for this for this Trailblazers team, they had Robert Williams shoot 3 3-pointers. They had Donovan Clingan shoot 3 3-pointers. 1 for 6 from 3 from your centers. And you compare that to Wemby, who shot 5 for 6 from 3. So Wemby, absolutely fantastic. But this wasn't just the Wembanyama show. Out there as well, you had Luke Kornet with 14 minutes, 10 points, and 6 rebounds. It was fantastic in the playing time that he got, and that's an absolute mismatch, having a starting caliber center as your backup. And then also, he didn't play too shabby either in the case of Stephon Castle in his playoff debut. I know that the field goal efficiency wasn't quite there, but whenever you're going up against a good defensive team, you're going to get opportunities. And while he didn't quite make them, I'm not terribly concerned about it, but noticing. Then for the Spurs again, you have De'Aaron Fox, consistent as consistent can get, 17 points, 5 rebounds, and 8 assists. He was fantastic. This entire Spurs team was just better. The only player that I think for the Trailblazers is like for a couple of them where it's like, okay, yeah, no, they need to be shouted out. That is Deni Avdija with 30 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists. He played very, very well. He's going to need to step up massively, though, and I seriously don't think there's a way that this Blazers team can do it. And by doing it, I mean beating the Spurs more than like one time. Then another player for the Blazers who stepped up is Scoot Henderson, 18 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists. He played well, but well isn't going to cut it. Robert Williams, I talked about his 3-point selection, but he did play well as a backup center, 11 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists. Unfortunately, he has Victor Wembanyama out there sometimes, and it just doesn't work. And I think that when looking at how the rest of the series is going to go, the matchup of Jrue Holiday on Victor Wembanyama, in my opinion, just doesn't work. Because I want to just talk about the height discrepancy there. Jrue Holiday, he's a decent sized guard. He's 6'4", right? You know that could work. Wemby's 7'4". He has a whole foot advantage on him, not mentioning if he ever reaches his hand up. But it's just, there's not much you can really do when Wemby's making his shots, and that's exactly what he was doing. This entire Spurs team is better. I don't want to say they're better coached, but I do feel like the Trailblazers made a couple of just boneheaded decisions, such as, why are you just settling for so many threes? Like, try to take Wemby out of the play. Like, I know that the Spurs are going to keep him as a drop defender. Like, I understand that on pick and rolls, he's just going to play back. But you don't think of having, like, someone cut across the paint, then have someone else go on the outside to the wing, to where you're going to make Wemby pick a choice between which of the two, and if you have a player who crashes down on those two wings, drive because Wemby's going to be moving out. Like, I think that there are just some small intricacies where this Blazers team didn't exploit all of the possible mismatches that they could have, but also I don't think they have the talent for that, and I think that also this is an interim coach for this Trailblazers team. So I'm looking at all of these factors going into it. San Antonio is better. Nothing about this result is shocking other than that the Blazers were able to keep it somewhat close, but this is a playoff game, and this is a play-in team against a 60-win team. This is not going to be a favorable matchup for the Blazers, and they are going to lose in maybe 5 games. Just because in the three-point era, who knows, one team could shoot like 80% from 3. It could happen. But I do think that realistically, this Blazers team has no chance. But that is all in totality, the first games of each playoff series. Let me know in the comments below how you think these series are going to go. Let me know if you think that I'm wrong on some of these. If you think that, Deni Avdija is going to average 70 and he's going to beat the Spurs, let me know. But this is the Scoop with Coop. As always, until next time.